Doing art shows.
Like,
being active with the whole community, I should say.
So, the origin of it all was going to Snow College, honestly. I went there just for cheap school, accidentally signed up as an art major. And basically on the first day, they had a talk at the orientation saying, like, if you're gonna be an art student, you better already be an artist or you're not gonna make it. Like, you have to already be in shows or you're not gonna make it. And so that weekend, I came back up to Salt Lake and went door to door to galleries downtown and got my first show that weekend. And ever since then, I realized, like, all it takes to do something is to just do it. And you gotta think about how you're doing it the right way and stuff. Like, the show I got into, now looking back, wasn't a very important show, but it, like, was enough to convince myself that I could do it. I wouldn't want that show now, but in hindsight, that was, like, my introduction to everything.
It was a starting point.
Yeah, it was a jumping off point. It was like, once I jumped off that ledge, I realized that all it takes is just going and you can get there.
Just constantly pushing for it.
Yeah.
Alright, so this first art show, you said it wasn't the biggest one you wanted or the most important one you wanted, but what kind of art show was it? Like, who was there?
It was like,
Where was it at?
so it was just an Alpine gallery downtown. They're just like a gallery framing company. They're like a lot of traditional galleries in Salt Lake, just like very plain stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They like, and it like at that point I hadn't made anything important, so it was just like my high school art. But I realized it was good enough to put in something like that, which says something about quality, but yeah.
So that was, you said in high school?
That was like my freshman year of college, like the first week. So it was like my leftover art from high school.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, very much beginning stuff.
How many art shows have you done so far since then?
I've done over 20 the last 2 years, both. So I've done like 45 with my stuff in them, I believe, somewhere around there.
Good?
Yeah.
How many international?
So I've done, I think just Niagara Falls, Canada, and Basel, Switzerland. The other big farther away one was in the Spectrum Art Fair in Miami.
Really?
But yeah.
Which was your favorite?
Honestly, I like the setup in Canada the most. As far as like looking good on a resume, Basel, Switzerland definitely looks the best because it was during Art Week in Basel. Mm-hmm. But those shows are good for experience. I didn't get to go out to them. They were small galleries, so they don't really add to prestige at all, except for having the international show, which is worth it. It's just like, it's another one of those stepping blocks. Like, I needed to get an international show, like that was a goal. Now I want to get into shows with bigger galleries, with better budgets, better connections. Yeah.
That's cool that you're trying to swing all this while still in college. Like, are you finishing, is this your last year?
This is my last semester I'm going into right now. If I can get through it all, I've got to take 19 credits.
Oh, shit.
But, yeah. So right now, I've taken out a few loans, so I'm going to be in Salt Lake for probably a year or two unless something else happens. I'm thinking about getting a bachelor's. I'm probably going to get a bachelor's. And for that, my options right now, I only want to go somewhere that can give me good connections. So there's a few LA schools, Rhode Island School of Design. The Central St. Martin's in London is a big fashion school as well. So there's a lot of potential there because they put out great artists, a lot of artists that work with virtual reality in the London scene. And then they've got a real good history of fashion designers that have come out of there. So that's just another twist. I'm most interested in giving myself twists that other people don't have. I think the most unique experience is the most important experience.
And just hearing your options, I feel like London would probably be
London's a big one. Yeah, I mean, they all have big options. I mean, every one of them in LA, Rhode Island School of Design especially, that's not in LA, all have crazy connections to like top artists in the world. And that's what I'm interested in. I'm not really interested in the degree.
Really?
Yeah.
You're just interested in the connections?
Yeah, and to get those connections through those institutions, you're basically leapfrogging positions in the art world. So that's what I'm trying to go for.
Well, how if you fill that resume with different positions, it's just helping your position.
The more diverse, the better.
Yeah. So with this, after you do your degree, what is your dream position? Where do you want to be? What's your dream job?
So my dream is to not have a job.
Yeah, everybody has that dream.
But like list making's been a huge thing for me. I make like at least one list a day, just organizing sometimes my personal life, sometimes my financial life, but mainly just my art life, all the projects I'm working on, all the projects I want to work on, just kind of mapping out future. And like I've been doing it for about 2 years now, about daily, and I've gotten to a point where I have a pretty solid 1, 5, and 10-year plan for like 5 different facets. Like lots of people don't like to face the reality that anything in the creative field is unstable, and there's ways to make it a lot more stable, but if you're just shooting up one direction, it's like kind of an all or nothing, which I think is awesome to go for, but I think you can also be smart about it and help yourself. So I've made a point of diversifying myself. Like I said, diversity is key. And basically I want to have a part in everything that I see as important in the art world. And if I can push myself far enough in as many as possible, there's no way I'm not gonna plan on all of them working out, especially at the same time.
But at least you have
while one's down or one's up, like there's always something to rely on, and like that's so far, even on a shoestring budget from a college student's perspective, that's worked so far. So,
I mean, if you have the ability to do multiple different things and push to get to that goal in multiple different things, 1 or 2 may fall off, but at least you'll have
and like
it will either somewhat work or one that just takes off and works fully.
Exactly.
You have your options.
I agree.
Oh fuck, just bear with me. My next question just slipped my mind. What's your current focus as of right now going into the next year?
Right now, on my plate, I mean, I have to be paying attention to like school stuff, but I've been trying to work so that the stuff I make for school or whatever I'm making anything for can work towards me on different levels as well. And one thing I've always been very against like branding or having a style, because I think when people make that apparent way too early, they don't really know what they're doing. They just have a style
or their fans will get mad when they
just like we talked about. And so and I also think people are immature. Like I'm immature. Like everyone's immature, and like anything that we decide now is not gonna work out forever. You know. And so I've been working a lot to be good at different things, like within each sector of the art world. Like this year I've learned a lot about sculpture, and it's like something I really can't go back from. I make a lot of almost everything I make has a 3-dimensional aspect to it now. And recently, everything has started to come closer to almost a central theme, not a visual central theme, but one more of a philosophical central theme. I feel like I've thought about and seen enough art and worked on enough art that I'm getting to the very, 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 very beginning of knowing what I want to say a little bit, but still nowhere near like what some of like the biggest artists out there. They're way ahead, and people don't realize how far ahead they are, and you have to take your time to get there. In my opinion.
It's all a huge learning curve.
Yeah.
Especially with being a creative, you gotta take your steps, you gotta put in your work.
Yeah, well, it's like I mean, anyone has put in their hours. Like we were just talking about Malcolm Gladwell earlier. Like the 2 most important books I've read are Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell and Poor Collector's Guide to Buying Great Art by Erling Kagge, because they both gave me insights. One on an insight on how to work at anything, one on an insight to what's actually where I'm headed. Because people just don't have perspective. And I don't have the best perspective, I'm not going to say that, but I try to at least educate myself about it.
Give yourself a better understanding.
Because I mean, we're all so uneducated. I think it's naive to say that you know enough to be the master of something, especially when you're in your 20s.
Yeah. You get to be an apprentice for years.
Yeah, it's like you never want to stop learning. Like a lot of people have a stigma against school, but I think, and I think you don't need school to teach yourself, but I think a lot of people could use school.
Because not a lot of people are motivated to self-educate.
Yeah, or they just talk bigger than they are.
Yeah. So with that quest for knowledge and your need to self-educate, do you see that reflecting into your work? Do you see that kind of driving your progression?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, like the lists I was talking about earlier, those are a huge like introspective practice. So I'm very aware of what I'm thinking, how I'm feeling, what I want to do, what I'm doing.
Now the listing, is that something that one day you're just like, I need to organize my life?
Yeah, it was like, I was just on some crazy stress levels my freshman year of college, and I was working a really awful job. and it was this terribly underpaid call center in the middle of central Utah, and I had pieces of paper in front of me, and so I just started organizing my life while I was on the job, and that led to kind of everything. And so I always have to have downtime every day where I'm usually in the studio when I do it, but just get everything on paper. I've tried on my phone, and that works for some people. It doesn't work for me. I either have to have all my paper like written on my arm, like
really?
Yeah.
So after you started doing that level of organization, what kind of changes did you see?
A lot more direction, holistically and on just like day-to-day stuff. Like every day I go to the studio, go to one of the like many places I have all my stuff stockpiled, find a list I wrote the night before, and I can like see a to-do list of all the things I want to get done. And then I have on a bigger list all the other things that are smaller and I can get done in between, or the bigger things that are going to take a long time and work towards. So there's like lots of levels of goals, and that's helped me realize what goals are realistic and what you're actually capable of is through like testing yourself every day on that.
Then it kind of gives you a blueprint to have basic goals on, like each step that you need to take to reach that goal.
Yeah, and like even
I kind of like that.
Yeah, even getting to the point where I have a 1 year, 5 year, and 10-year like plan for some things. It like took me a year of writing down goals to get to a point where I knew how to write that realistically. And who knows, maybe it's not perfectly realistic because I've been writing lists for a year. I just made goals for 1, 5, and 10. For all I know, some of those 5s are supposed to be in the 10s and the 10s and the 5s, some of the 5s in the 30, who knows. But like, I'm at a point where I'm more aware of what's realistic for me and how far I can push myself to achieve things out of my comfort zone. And I think that's the most important thing for progression.
Especially with being a creative, I feel like reaching your comfort zone is huge to anybody's progression in this industry.
Yeah, it's ballsy.
Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah,
honestly. Like,
and I feel like making anything important is gonna take a lot of not just ambition, but like balls. Just a lot of that. Yeah,
I love that listing. And I like how you were able to tell me kind of what you received after making that change in your life.
Yeah, it's led to a lot of just perception practices too. Like just like what I surround myself with is a little bit different now. Like I think I'm a lot more interested in what other people are doing now in more diverse areas.
Expand on that.
Like, okay, Instagram is my favorite social media because it's a very, like, I mean, everyone is just posting a self-portrait of themselves constantly, what they're interested in, what they're doing, who they are, what they're working on. And I've used it as a tastemaker for myself, where, like, I gave up that whole ratio thing, like, 2 years ago, like, caring about ratio. I follow probably, like, 4,500 people, and just having that is basically, I can scroll through a palette of everything that I'm interested in, things that people I'm interested are interested in, and like stuff that's way above my taste level, but I can recognize as important or better than my stuff. So every day I'm seeing all of that everywhere and surrounding myself with stuff that is not like comfortable for me, but is stimulating for me. And so like even when I've made it so even when I'm scrolling through my phone, I'm helping myself rather than losing time. So
it's nice that you keep constantly feed your mind.
Yeah, that's huge. It's been good.
So it's kind of a change of topic, and we talked about this before the camera started rolling, but kind of recap how Argentina was. Like, what was the culture like? Did you see art aspects out there that intrigued you while serving this religious mission?
I think it was, my big takeaway from that was kind of a takeaway that started before that. I've always been interested in other cultures, especially Spanish-speaking cultures. But just being and learning a real language, like getting a language down, you realize that there's a whole other way of living. Just like how people speak says so much about how they live. And I think that like boils down to art. Art is just perception. And if you look at almost every great artist, they've been bilingual at least, most of them trilingual, because it's all about, it's like art is creating new language. Art is creating like a new way of it's creating opportunities for people to perceive things on a deeper level. It's not saying something directly or in my opinion at least, I think the best, I'm not going to try and define art because there's no definition to it.
Yeah, it's so hard.
But the best stuff for me is usually stuff I don't understand. It's stuff that like pushes me or anyone.
Sparks curiosity.
Sparks curiosity and is something you can look at for a long time or think about for a long time and is non-conclusive. Like it's there and it exists and somewhere inside you there's an interest of like why it exists, but you don't know the answer and that's why you care about it. And like making those things isn't easy.
Mm.
Yeah, I think language interpretation and that space in between where our mind is, the things that we can't quite say with words, like that's the sweet spot of like existence in my opinion.
And for people to be able to tap into that sweet spot produces some of the most interesting creative art.
Yeah, I mean you can, and like any genre, like we're not even talking like just fine art or music or anything like that. Like I've been crazy interested in poster design lately and I'm like, I don't like graphic design or that career. Like I look down on that a lot because of just the way it's approached, I think. But like me and my buddy down at Snow, Ryan Smith, have become poster snobs in the last like 3 months for absolutely no reason other than that there's something about it when it's done right that stimulates something.
It just makes you feel something.
Yeah,
it's the
it just pushes you to that point of it. You're interpreting something. It's supposed to send you a message, and when the message isn't always clear, but it's interesting, like there's just so much breathing room there to feel something.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
What do you feel when you're creating? When you have the idea to create something, is there a certain emotion that sparked that? Or is it just the will to create?
I mean, it's like, I like to make things, and it's become like, it's not like I wake up and I'm like, oh, I've got to really make something. It's just something I do that like is just kind of part of life now that I love. But yeah, I think like lots of people have to be feeling a certain way or listening to certain music or something like that. But that's not how it works for me. It's like I can be angry and working on something. I can be sad. I can be happy. Like, because whatever energy it is, you can filter it into what you're making. For me, and that's what makes making accessible. And like, I don't know. I don't like. I don't know. Like just purely angry art is like not that attractive to me, or purely sad art. It's like it seems fake to me because it's so one-dimensional, and like we've got this whole spectrum of everything. Like existence has a lot more to it than even the things we can name. Like you can't just, I mean you can just say one thing, but I think it's better to not say anything. Kind of boring. I think it's better to not say anything and let what you say be like the blurry gray area between everything. Yeah,
kind of let the viewer form their own opinion.
Yeah. And you'd hope that they like form something that's new to them, or rather than something that everyone you want to have things that everyone experiences, but not things that are easily labeled.
What's your favorite style of artwork that you've come across so far? If it's too hard, you can list it down to the top.
No, I think I have, like the one I'm most interested in talking about, I think is right now Eastern European painters. Like there's a young group of Eastern European painters. The one that really sparked my interest first was Martin Lukács. I'm really interested in them because they've created, like, there aren't very many art movements that stick to just one geographical location anymore, and they've done that somehow, and they're just really interesting. A lot of what I'm interested in is ideas more than like actual like art.
If there was any place on the planet you could go, you could explore, you could study to add to your creativity, what would it be?
Probably the Middle East.
The Middle East?
Yeah.
Why do you have a found interest there?
It's like the beginning of like where we find communication, like written language. The first like I feel like it's like the most like mythical place you can go, and art's all about mythology in a lot of ways, and so I feel like experiencing that like it's such a melting pot right now. Like thinking about like Israel and stuff, and like all the different conflicts, the different cultures that are making claim. I don't know enough about like the actual politics there to have an opinion one way or another, but I'm very interested in like people's beliefs and their claims to things.
Kind of like the root culture?
Yeah, the root culture, like the roots of everything, and that communication, that interaction that leads to such crazy passion. Like, because it really is communication and identification that is leading to people having crazy love or crazy hate for these things. And I think for anything to fuel that much drama, it's pretty powerful. My biggest show ever is actually happening April. Yeah, April this year. I'm gonna have it shown at one of the artist-run galleries at Snow College, and then I'm also looking for a space up here to do it in. I haven't found the space yet, but it's probably gonna be a DIY space. I need to do it pretty specific for the show.
Yeah, kind of like a blank space.
Yeah, but that show, like I've been working on the series for off and on for like 3 months already, and I've got to work on it until April. So it'll be a culmination of a lot of things. And I think it's gonna be one of my more complete shows. So that's for like, that's my AFA thesis show. So it has to be good or I don't graduate. So yeah, that's like the biggest thing coming up. Everything after that's not concrete, every direction kind of stuff. But I'll be dropping the spring summer collection for my line around the same time, April, May. Possibly a few, definitely a few collaborative releases in the next 2 to 3 months. With Kalos, with Tri-World Systems, and then possibly 1 or 2 more. But aside from that, it's just me in the studio.
Working, grinding.